Good evening. The Palestinian government praises Egypt's steadfast support for Palestinian rights, humanitarian aid, coordination, and tireless efforts towards a durable Gaza ceasefire amid escalating regional tensions. While on the ground, Egypt confirms smooth voting on the second day of the 2025 Senate elections for Egyptians abroad. Join us for our special coverage on Qnews, where we tackle the latest developments. The Palestinian government has praised Egypt's role in backing Palestinian rights, coordinating aid, and pushing for a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Palestinian officials have commended President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the Egyptian government for the leadership in supporting a Gaza ceasefire and coordinating humanitarian aid. Egypt was also praised for preparing an international conference to rebuild Gaza. The Palestinian government expressed appreciation for Egypt's firm rejection of forced displacement and its continued support despite political and media pressure. Fatah has condemned Hamas for recent remarks against Egypt and Jordan, calling them divisive and harmful to the Palestinian cause. Fatah has rejected what it called hostile statements by Hamas towards Egypt and Jordan, saying they do not represent the Palestinian people. It praised both nations for decades of support and sheltering Palestinians, warning that such rhetoric fuels division and threatens Arab unity, but also reaffirmed its appreciation for Egypt's leadership under President al-Sisi and called on all Palestinian factions to end incitements and prioritize national unity. Jordan's army has carried out 7 airdrops, delivering 57 tons of aid to Gaza with support from several international partners. Jordan, alongside the United Arab Emirates, Germany, France, and Spain, have already airdropped 57 tons of aid into Gaza, including food and infant formula. The operation comes amid warnings of famine and rising child deaths due to restricted access to humanitarian relief. Global Hunger Monitor recently reported worsening conditions across the territory despite international outrage over an offensive that has killed more than 60,000 Palestinians. Israel continues to reject mounting criticism. Families of Israeli detainees held by Hamas staged a protest in Tel Aviv, urging a comprehensive deal to end the war and secure the captives' release. Protesters surrounded themselves with barbed wire in a symbolic act reflecting the plight of the detainees. They criticized the Israeli government's failure to free all captives and raised concerns over the detainees' reported hunger. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff has met with families of Israeli detainees in Tel Aviv as truce talks and aid concerns intensify. Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East, visited Hostages Square in Tel Aviv to meet families of Israelis held in Gaza amid public pressure for their release. Earlier, he met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to push forward Gaza ceasefire efforts and discuss the worsening humanitarian crisis. His visit comes as global criticism mounts over Israel's offensive and restricted aid access, with famine warnings growing louder. U.S. President Donald Trump has praised his envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Gaza aid facilities amid mounting international criticism. President Donald Trump lauded Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff for what he called a great meeting during his visit to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site in Rafah. The visit comes as the United Nations and aid groups criticize the foundation over chaotic aid delivery and worsening famine, despite deadly incidents reported near the GHF sites. The group denies wrongdoing. Israel, meanwhile, blames Hamas and the UN for aid failures, deflecting responsibility from its blockade. Hamas has condemned Steve Witkoff's visit to Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid centers as a staged effort to whitewash Israeli occupation. Hamas accused the visit of providing political cover for Israel's deliberate starvation and systematic killing of children and civilians. Hamas labeled the U.S. as a full partner in the crimes of starvation and genocide in Gaza conducted openly before the world. They urged the U.S. to push for a ceasefire agreement to end aggression and ensure Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza. And for further analysis, we're joined from Ramallah by a spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah, Ahmed Fattouh. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Let me start by asking you, what are the fundamental reasons behind Fatah's vehement criticism of Hamas' recent remarks regarding or targeting Egypt and Jordan?
Well, I'm not sure why they are doing these attacks, but this is the issue with the Muslim Brotherhood, that they have always been a divisive and so discord between the Arabic powers and political entities. We reject that completely, and we reject even the very basis of these claims, because bearing Egypt responsible for the starvation is a great justification for the Israeli starvation. It is Israel who is starving the Palestinian people, not Egypt. It is Israel that is occupying the Rafah border, not Egypt. And it is catastrophic that Hamas would give this free gift to Israel and this service to blame Egypt. If we are going to blame, we are only holding Israeli accountable for this starvation. And if there is any call for demonstration and protest in the world, it should be to the Israeli embassies and all governmental institutions. It is also regrettable and very disturbing that the Muslim Brotherhoods in Israel, in Tel Aviv, go to protest in front of the Egyptian embassy while they are meters away from Netanyahu headquarters, instead of going after the war criminal, the fascist far-right Israeli criminal who are starving and discriminately bombarding our people. They are going after Egypt, that is providing food, that is doing all that it could in pressure in terms politically and the international arena to stop and end the siege of Gaza and the starvation of Gaza. We call and reiterate on all our Palestinian factions to be wise and to respect our main brothers and allies in the region, Egypt and Jordan, and we together we stand in the face of the Israeli occupation, and which is defended and supported by the United States in the international arena and politically and economically.
Now, Mr. Ahmed, how significantly are Hamas comments weakening regional solidarity at a time when Arab nations led by Egypt are striving for a ceasefire and Palestinian statehood?
It is, of course, divisive. It's so discord. And it's not needed, neither politically, neither nationally. It's non-beneficial in any way possible to lift blames from Israel and to accuse Egypt instead of the main criminal that everybody in the world is accusing and chasing in the International Criminal Court. This is of course, harming our relations with the Arab world. Of course, it does not represent the Palestinian voice. It does not represent Palestinian position, nor the leadership, nor the people. It represents Hamas, and this is the issue with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't find any partners. They always want to be the one player, the unilateral maker of decisions, and that is refused. Hamas need to come down and to come back to the Arab world and to the Palestinian Authority and Liberation Organization, to come back to the Palestinian national movements, to unite our efforts with our friends and brothers in the Arab world, to form a coalition, a force, a political force to face the United States, because we have to admit the fact that this occupation is only doing what it is doing because of the United States of America, and our Arab world is trying to devise a political process that could undermine that unconditional support to Israel. Together we could play and to save our people, and in return save Hamas itself. When we are doing pressure to lift the siege, when we are doing pressure against the United States and Israel to accept the return of the Palestinian government to Gaza, and for Hamas to submit its weapon to the government and to withdraw from power, that means that we are saving Hamas lives, because what is the other proposition by the Israeli occupation is the full extermination of Hamas and the Palestinian people. So Hamas need to wise up, and enough of this manipulation and divisive policies that they adopt for decades by now.
Now, Mr. Ahmed, to what extent has Egypt's stern position against displacement stood as a concrete block in face of all plans regarding the displacement, forceful or the
forceful displacement?
Yes, the forced displacement, and also the any kind of displacement. And how do you think the response, particularly from Europe, was towards that?
Of course, we have to admit as Palestinians that Egypt played a major role into crippling the Israeli schemes to forcefully displace the Palestinian people. From day one, Israel wanted for all the Palestinians to leave from the borders. And Egypt was full aware of Israel's schemes and instead faced them internationally and politically, that there is no displacement to the Palestinian people, and Palestinian people who are leaving should have the right of return. And that came in also in harmony with the Palestinian Authority and PLO calls to defend the Palestinian people rights to exist in their lands. Egypt played a major role into crippling this land, in addition to the Arab support. And we have here to mention the Jordanian efforts, the Gulf efforts, and the Saudi Arabia efforts, all played a major role, which started by Egypt. Egypt has devised with the Palestinian people the Arab Plan, which later was adopted and further enhanced by the Arabs and the EU. All this political work comes to cripple this agenda of Israel and, let's say, the U.S. administration, because it is Trump who said that he wanted to turn Gaza into Rivera and to expel the Palestinian people. If Egypt wanted to not to support the Palestinian people, they could say, all right, do whatever you like. But they did not say that. They instead stood solid and firm against this position and defended the Palestinian cause and international struggle for a national struggle for liberation and independence. Hamas should thank Egypt for that, not sow discord and call for its followers to go to the embassies, and instead of calling for their followers to go against the Israeli embassies. That's a shame, and Hamas need to think again of what they are doing, and they need to think again about their ideological policies against the Palestinian unity and the Arab unity. This is the time that Hamas has to ditch that mentality and go back to the Arab unity to form a unit, one unit against the Israeli and Zionist schemes in the region.
Now, if I may ask you about the ways Egypt has succeeded in preserving the regional and global backing despite facing coordinated media and political opposition to its stance on Gaza. Definitely with regard also of Egypt's delivering aid.
Of course, Egypt did not preserve an effort to enter all aid to Gaza. Trucks are in thousands, in hundreds in Rafah, the Egyptian Rafah side, waiting to go inside. But it is Israel that is occupying the borders and banning these aid trucks to come in. They are banning the UN trucks to come in, not only Egypt. So this is, a well-known fact by now, a well-established fact. Now the airdrops of aid, they are trying to pass by, to to bypass Israel ban and restriction through air. Of course, it is more important by trucks, it's more efficient, but that means that they are doing everything they could to allow aid to enter. And instead of attacking Egypt, we should focus on pressuring toward opening the borders. That is in the benefit of Palestine. That is in the benefit of the struggle for Palestinian people. Of course, Egypt has been a mediator from the very beginning of this war between Hamas and Israel, and they have been, putting all their power and force on Israel to stop their starvation, to stop their siege, and to end this war and to go for ceasefire. It is Egypt and who was successful in mediation to reach the deal that we reached in January, which Israel refused and withdraw from in the stage two. So how is it possible for anybody to blame Egypt for that? Egypt is standing as a great barrier against the mass displacement of the Palestinian people, and we are very thankful for their efforts to stop these schemes. The Palestinian people have the right to stay in their land. I will not leave their lands, and it is Israel that need to withdraw from our lands.
Let me here reiterate a question in other ways, but despite facing international media and political opposition and particularly towards its position on Gaza, do you think Egypt was able to preserve the regional and global backing, or enough regional and global backing?
Egypt from day one has been on their foot to standing by Palestine. They have been in communication with our leadership, with the President Mahmoud Abbas, and with all the Palestinian parties, even Hamas, to find a political breakthrough to stop this madness. Because from the early on, we saw the signs that Israel is going to invest on Hamas uncalculated attack on October 7 to push forward a colonial agenda. Egypt went to the international world, went to the Arab world, put their hands with the Palestinian Authority to devise a plan. So they did every effort, and they are doing a pivotal effort for that to stop the crimes against humanity that Israel is committing. So I would say, as a Palestinian, as a member of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, that Egypt is the greatest ally for our national struggle, and we always count on their political power and economical power to pressure further into stopping Israel. Now we have the two-state solution conference that took place in New York. That is a great step forward that need to be translated into actions on the ground. Of course, the many players or the main keys are within the hand of United States and Europe. So now the role that Egypt is willing to do and is going to do is to pressure the EU and the United States to use these keys. They are the ones who are funding Israel. They are the ones who are arming Israel. They are the ones who are providing political protection for Israel. Now they need to put sanctions on Israel. And that's the main role that they are trying to do right now. And I hope together we will be successful. And Hamas need to, once again, be wise. And now is the time for unity and for joining forces, not to sow discord in these very critical times.
Definitely prioritizing the Palestinian interests. What are the implications of Fatah condemning Hamas for its statements against Egypt and Jordan? Could this deepen the internal Palestinian divide?
We are condemning this out of our principles. We are not, gonna gamble our relations with the Arabs, and we reject that completely. Actually, this is a matter of principles. If that deepens the division with Hamas, then that is a shame. Of course, Hamas is closing the doors, and we are asking them to open the doors. Now, Hamas has to face the inevitable that their uncalculated attack on October 7 has led us to this devastating point in history. This is the second Nakba. This is a catastrophe, a humanitarian catastrophe. We are talking about 2 million human beings displaced, children dying from hunger. What are their achievements or things they could achieve from this war? If they're gonna, continue in this grip of power and thinking that their, opposition and divisive plans would give them authority or power in Gaza or some kind of recognition in the international community, that would be madness. Our statement is clear. This is our position. This is what is Fatah. Fatah is a national liberation movement that is stemmed from our Arabic unity and our pan-Arabism to face the Zionist colonialism over Palestine. Our Arabs are our first allies, our brothers and sisters, and together we work and we refuse any kind of whether intervention in their internal affairs or insulting their efforts in support of us.
If I may ask you here, you know, we have, or Egypt has been advocating for a lasting peace or a lasting ceasefire since the very beginning, a lasting ending the whole war at large. And definitely it has been advocating for the reconstruction of Gaza, of course, the delivery of aid as soon as possible, and also the after-war reconstruction of Gaza. Now, what exactly do the world want to see at this upcoming stage from the Palestinian side so we can reach this end result that has been advocated by Egypt since the very beginning?
Now, what's important is to remove all pretexts from the Israeli occupation. Israeli occupation are investing in this division, investing on Hamas taking control of Gaza and their illegal governance of Gaza after the coup in 2007 to justify their crimes against humanity and their extermination campaign that they're doing in Gaza. And by the way, in the West Bank as well, by now the Israeli Knesset issued a bill to annex the West Bank. So to Israel, if we think from the Israeli Zionist point of view, what they think from Hamas is the greatest gift in history to get this unconditional support from the West in order to push for an agenda that has been widely refused for decades. So the first priority right now is to remove these pretexts, and that comes by Hamas stepping down from power. Clearly, we are clear here and honest with each other. Hamas needs to step down from power and call upon the Palestinian government to go back to Gaza and to give their weapons to the PLO, the legitimate authority, because we want one authority, one law, one national agenda, and one weapon, and one political system in the entirety of Palestine. We will refuse any kind of divisions or multiple agendas or multiple systems. Together, if we put hands with each other, we could face Israel and make a force into the international community to compel Israel to apply its obligations from the past covenants and the international resolutions. It is a national demand right now that we unite under the legitimate authority to face the Israelis who are advancing schemes to exterminate the Palestinian people and liquidate our national cause. All the pretexts must be removed, as I told you. So therefore, Hamas need to understand their weapon, by the way, is a light weapon. Let's face the truth here. It's not that powerful to face or deter the Israeli occupation. If it was, it should have done that within the past 2 years, but it didn't. So we have to be reasonable here that their weapon go back to the authority, and the authority, the PLO, with the Arab world, with the EU, could then face Israel and tell them, now you have no pretext and you are obliged to fulfill your commitments. And then not even the United States could save Israel from its occupation or promoting their colonial agenda. At that time, that is a wise move that would be a great blowback to Israel. Hamas need to be wise here. In 1982, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, after 88 days of war in Lebanon, under siege, under the cruelty of the Israeli occupation back then, when they found that the blood of our children and the Lebanese children is overwhelming, they retreated to save the people, because people are the very first priority in our struggle. We are facing a settler colonialism That means a colonialism that want to replace people by an invaders. So our people are the very first defense to that scheme, and their existence and steadfastness in their land is the major and most important weapon against this criminal occupation.
Returning back to our main topic here, and how effective have Egypt's and Jordan's humanitarian efforts been in addressing the worsening conditions in Gaza so far, particularly in light of the reported famine and aid restrictions put by Israel?
Well, they are trying what they could to allow the aid enter, but to be truthful here, the aid is not enough. Therefore, we need further pressure and continuous pressure. There is a pressure. We hope that we go further and step up in our pressure, because the situation is alarming. The IBC has issued an alarm that Gaza is on days away from entering a full famine. So time is running out. Therefore, we need full entry of aid. Now, Gaza need at least from 500 to 600 aid trucks per day. And that is the minimum needed. Without achieving that as soon as possible, immediately, we cannot avoid the catastrophic famine, which, if happened, God forbid, it will be a mass number of deaths. Because Egypt and Jordan is doing everything they could, I hope the Arab world would step even further and to use all the cards right now, because we are running out of time.
What do you think are the diplomatic or strategic interests that motivate Egypt and Jordan to stay actively involved in the Palestinian cause despite regional and international pressure?
Of course, it's very important to the entire Arab world, because Israel is pushing for a colonial agenda. They are saying out loud, ministers and members of the parliament saying that they want to achieve the Greater Israel. The Greater Israel means that they want to occupy all of historical Palestine, the Sinai desert until the Nile River, and entire of Lebanon, half Syria. This crazy idea to go until Iraq. So we are facing a colonialist supremacist ideology that is spreading, and it's not the voice of minority in Israel. This is the voice of majority of Israel. So that is a threat to the entire region. And the second threat is if God forbid, Israel forcefully displaces the Palestinian people from Gaza and from the West Bank, that will mean there will be an influx of refugees to the neighboring countries, which are mainly Egypt and Jordan. And that would lead us to decades of instability and violence, because that will mean there's an influx of persecuted people who demand for their freedom. In 1948, when Israel forcefully displaced more than 800,000 Palestinians, that did not end the Palestinian cause. That actually started the Palestinian Revolution, which is the longest national revolution in modern history. Second Nakba will not resolve or dissolve the Palestinian issue. It will only gonna create a further revolution and a further conflict and struggle to liberate Palestine. So we are here dealing with a mad entity, a mad political entity that is drunk on power and blood, that is Israel, that is a threat to not only the region, even to the world. Because that instability in Middle East will reflect to the entire world, will reflect to Europe with the influx of refugees, will reflect with this stability, with the demonstrations and protests in hundreds of thousands in Washington and London against the Israeli occupation and Zionism and this complicity of the Western world. So that will make it this stability for decades to go. So the role the Arab world is playing, and mainly Egypt right now, is to preserve peace and to find sanity in front of this madness, because we are now grouping the wise voices to face this fascist colonial voices.
Yes.
By the way, right now the entire world is against what Israel is doing. Only USA is still unconditionally supporting Israel, and that is regrettable.
Right, so that was Mr. Ahmed Fatouh from Ramallah, the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah. We thank you so much for joining us here on Q News. And I guess that brings us to the end of our special coverage for today. And I guess we are continuing on with elections abroad smoothly for the Egyptian Senate's elections. So please don't or follow Qnews to know the latest updates. And don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching.